Yeah, we put in work and here's the proof. What you want?
I'm making moves, punching in.
I'm on it too.
I'm in the gym.
I'm in the stew.
It's hunting season.
Where's the food?
We push each other daily, level up.
Cause that's what brothers do.
Clock in.
We're here, man. Episode 22, right, Marshall?
22, man.
22. Yeah, man. We're excited. You know, we had a really good episode back on the kickoff season 2. But we got a really special treat for y'all, man. This dude, I mean, where do I start? For real. I'll say this. I've been taking notes with this guy for about 5 years, man. 5 years I've been taking notes with this guy. But he's a special person, man. First and foremost, a man of God. He's very into his faith. He's got a heart of gold. But someone that I can call a friend, which I'm honored to do. But my guy, Miles Williams, man. Appreciate you stopping by, Miles.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me, man. I feel like I wish I had my notebook, but I got my iPad instead. I've been taking notes since 2011, man. 2011. I'm glad to be a part of it, man, and be able to chop it up a little bit.
Yeah, man. It's been way too long. We talked about this earlier, but probably since we graduated, from Elon University. So it's a blessing to see you and get a chance to chop it up, man, and see that you're still in good health, you're still in good spirits.
Yeah, man.
I never had my doubts about you, man. So again, man, we're honored to have you.
No, I appreciate it, man. Happy to be a part of it. See, y'all started something that's special, man. And I was like, when you first started, I was like, oh snap, I want to be able to be a part of this. And now that my life has gotten a little bit crazier and more hectic, I was like, you know what, we got to make sure we make this happen. I'm glad you reached out and we could talk a little bit.
Absolutely, man.
I'm curious to know how y'all met, because there's like you never know what path that could go down in college, because y'all met in college.
I was about to make up a story. I don't remember the exact moment, so I'm like, it probably was something like this. I can give you a vague memory. So I probably saw with Elon, we were student athletes, black student athletes. We're probably like 10% of the population at the time.
Yeah.
One day I was walking towards the quad, right, and I see a group of 50 girls, and I was like, what is happening?
Yo.
They had signs and banners and stuff. I was like, What's going on? And I looked, and Aham was just walking, and girls were just flocking that way. And so I said, you know what? I want to be like that guy. I got to meet that guy. And that's kind of how it happened after that.
That's what happened.
I'm going to be honest with you. That is not even close to what happened. I would say it was flipped. Right. I would say the girls were on Miles. Right.
A blur.
But honestly, were you in that authentic masculinity class, Miles?
Yep.
I think that's when we first met, because that was my first summer class. Mm-hmm. And it was me, Kev, Zora, and a bunch of the football dudes. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I do remember, because you asked, y'all hoop. And y'all pulled up my highlights, and y'all in the back of the class from high school, just going crazy. Y'all always show love, man. But I think that was the first time we met.
That probably was. That memory was probably the second or third time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're Sison. You're definitely Sison.
What made you choose Elon, Miles?
Oh, that's a good question. So, coming out of high school, I got hurt my junior year, and didn't have as many offers as I wanted, or I felt like I should have. And so it came down to a lot of FCS schools, a lot of small D1 schools that are interested in me, but I felt like I should have been at least ACC guy. UNC wanted me to go to prep school, and I was like, I felt disrespected. I was like, nah, man, I'm not going to prep school. And then Elon reached out. They've been on me for a little while, and I was like, all right. Had a black head coach. First year, it was going to be his first year there. We had a new facility. And I was like, I prayed on it. I was like, you know what? If this is where I want to be, this is where I'm going to be. Went on my official visit. And on my official visit, I got offered by Pitt. And I was so I was going to go there for my official visit next weekend. And Dad was like, oh, yeah, you should go. You should go. Just feel Elon out. And on the ride back home from Elon, I was like, nah, we're not going to Pitt. I'm going to Elon. I want to go play somewhere where I can start right away, where I can get a good education, where I'm not too far from home, and the rest is history. It was a good. I thought it was a great decision for me overall. I definitely had like thoughts in the back of my mind, like, hey, I could have played ACC ball, but ultimately, like, I wouldn't change my experience at Elon for anything.
Yeah, man, it's a great school, but you did mention the 10% black. That's why I asked you. I was like, what made you choose Elon? You know, but that makes a lot of sense, man. I feel like the way God works typically is, a lot of times what you think you need, it may not be what you want, and he puts you in a position that you can thrive in. And Elon's a great school, man. Yeah. Academically great to have on your resume. You have relationships like the one you have with Austin and others.
Yeah.
So it looks like it worked out for you, man. And I do got to ask this, because typically what I've seen on college campuses, there's usually a little beef between the basketball and football team. Usually it has to do with females. You know what I'm saying? I'm not used to seeing, because you guys are both, key parts of your team, right? So like usually the stars on the football team and the stars on the basketball team, you know what I'm saying? There's some competition. So what was that dynamic like at Elon? Because when I talked to Austin, he was cool with all the football guys.
Yeah, always. I didn't know. Here's the thing, Marshall. Like, me being a black athlete, as Miles stated, a predominantly white school, and my team was predominantly white. Mm-hmm. So it's like, there's not many that look like me. So the closest thing to, getting some culture was the football team. Yeah, so like, it was a no-brainer for me. But also, as I said earlier, like from day one, they always show love to me. So, and me, man, I'm cool with everybody. And Miles really is the same way. So
yeah, I feel the same way. And I was like, there's no reason for us to be beefed out. Like there's and it was this thing of like they're coming to all of our games whenever y'all are at home, we're making sure we're at y'all's games. We had our own little section, and so it felt like we're always making sure we spread love and we're taking care of each other. So I just enjoyed it, man. I wish I would have been able to be at more games, to be real with you. But yeah,
that's how it should be, man. That's how it should be. But I've seen some things where I'm like, man, it's really.
I feel like you're talking from experience.
It sounds like.
Yeah. So I was cool with all the football guys. Me and Austin, we were kind of raised to be cool with everybody, treat everybody the same. My school was probably, I don't know, half the size of Elon or even more than that, like 1,500 kids. So it was like high school anyway. But I've heard stories from other campuses, where the football players, and the basketball players, there's some type of friction, you know what I'm saying?
There's definitely
stuff like that.
Definitely friction.
It's good to see that, at Elon, that wasn't the case. But
for sure.
Yeah, man, wanted to jump into, kind of the first area that we want to highlight when it comes to you. And we know this isn't your identity, but, people know you from this endeavor, right? And that's Married at First Sight.
Yeah.
So like Austin said, we're not big reality TV type guys. And in fact, Austin was like, I'm surprised Miles even did it, right? So I want to hear like what led to that, man? What led to you being on the show?
Man, so first, I'm not a reality TV guy either. I don't watch reality TV. If I'm not watching ESPN Sports Center, I'm watching like Family Guy or like Bob's Burgers or something, or a documentary, and that's it. If I can stay awake through those things. And so my boy Woody, we coach football here in New Orleans together. We were real close. We all, like, everything we did, we worked together, and then outside of work, we were just always just hanging together. And one day he was like, "Hey man, I signed up for this show called Married at First Sight," and I was like, "All right, cool. Like, I don't know what it is, whatever." And he's like, you marry a stranger, and then you stay together for 8 weeks inside if you want to stay married or get divorced or not. And I was like, "Oh, that's tight. Like, good for you. You're crazy, right?" He was like, "Oh," he's like, "I signed you up." And I was like, "No, you didn't." He was like, "No, I did. Like, they're gonna reach out to you." So next day, Liddy hits me up. She's like, "Oh, your friend Woody referred you, whatever." And I was like,
"Wow,
I'm not doing this." And
you weren't even hip.
No, I had no clue. Wow. So then they hit me up, like they're hitting me up consistently for like a week. Like, hey, we really want you to be able to like just talk. Like, there's no pressure, just like interview, whatever. And they kept just roping me in, man. And then one day they were like, hey, come to callbacks. Go to callbacks. And it's like, we're all in a room. It's like 15, 20 of us. And they're like, y'all are the finalists for Married at First Sight. And I was like, what? I haven't done anything but just talk to you. What you mean I'm a finalist? I'm like, we're picking 5. And I'm looking around, I'm counting. I'm like, dang, bro, like, we in this. And so sooner or later, they tell us both of us had a match and that we're about to be married in a week. And wow, from then on, I was like, oh snap, here we are. And the rest is kind of history right now, kind of still unfolding as we speak.
And so my boy made a tender.
My wife right there.
Hey, Karen.
My boy signed me up for Tinder. They didn't. Like this fool had him sign up for a whole reality show.
Man. And he said he was putting me on. He's like, hey, I'm throwing you in a live. I'm throwing you a live. And I was like, I don't know, bro. I don't know. And so luckily it worked out. But yeah, it was a lot, man. There was a lot going on at the beginning of this whole process.
So, I mean, I don't know if you have any questions, Austin, but
I got a few.
So, like, what? Like, how fast? That sounded like it was like a 3-week.
Yeah, it was. So they first contacted me around like Thanksgiving time, so like close to around this time last year, and then I found out. I went to like maybe 2 things. They might have filmed at my house once or twice, and then like first week. Oh, Kayla, when did you find out that you had a match? Was it January? Like end of January? Yeah. So like they talked to us for they talked to us for a little bit, didn't talk to us for like 3 weeks, and then end of January we're like, hey, you're getting married in like 2 weeks.
And that's it. You're getting married.
Invite 25 people, and you're gonna be married. And I was like, dang, asking all kind of questions. Who is she? What's she like? What she look like? Wouldn't tell me nothing. And then
so let me ask you this, Miles. Like, obviously you didn't know pretty much anything about Karen, but did you have to fill out like a questionnaire and like,
man, that's okay, crazy, dude. We had to fill out like all kind of questionnaires. They interviewed us. We did psych evaluations. We did talking about all of our past relationships, like every preference you could possibly think of. They asked you about, and things I had never even thought of, and they're asking that on camera. So you're sitting here like, I had never thought of that before, but here I am. And I wanted to make sure I was really authentic with like what I was saying, because I was like, if I'm really getting married right now,
yeah,
y'all ain't messing this up. Y'all ain't messing this up with me. And luckily it's worked out. So I would not recommend doing it again. Don't let your boy sign you up for that.
Yeah, man.
That's like Hinge on steroids. I don't know if you ever were on Hinge, but on Hinge you got to fill out like all these categories. That's like times 1,000.
1,000, man.
And that's crazy. Shout out to Woody though, man. I mean,
yeah,
it worked out.
It worked out, and now we're about to be moving into a new house, and hopefully for Christmas she's getting me a puppy, and we can keep it moving from there. You know,
apply that public pressure. You done told the people, so now she got to do it. Right?
Yeah, now the people know, so it's got to come.
That's crazy, man. So, all right, after the wedding happens, right? Mm-hmm. You meet the family.
Yeah. And
I'm watching the show with my girl, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like Miles, knowing Miles, he's gonna handle the situation flawlessly. And you did. But can you talk about like what that was like? Were you nervous? Were you in a good spot? But just talk about that situation.
Yeah, so I'm trying to remember. I didn't watch most of the season. I probably watched like maybe 2 or 3 episodes, like the first one, and then probably like the end, because I kind of saw how the way it was being portrayed and was like, hey, it's worth it. But I remember wedding day being real nervous. Like I wasn't nervous until that day. Mm-hmm. And then that day I was just like, oh snap, here we are. And then she walked down the aisle. I saw she was nervous. I was like, okay, cool. I can't be nervous no more.
Yep.
And then when I met her parents are older, more old school, traditional people. And so when we first met, I was like, I got to make sure that they know that I'm not here to play around. I'm not joking. It's serious to me. And at first, her dad was not rocking with it at all. Like, was not like shook my hand. I was like, "So nice to meet you. I'm gonna take care of your daughter." He was like, "I bet." Like basically, he's like, "All right, like you got to prove that to me."
Yeah.
And her mom was like really like warm and like
really?
Yeah.
From the
really
show, it seemed like the mom was really pressing you.
Yeah, I can't say for so much, but
Yeah.
Well, our relationship now is beautiful. She's blowing my phone up probably every other day if she can. But yeah, it was tough, man. That first day was rough. And then after that, it was pretty smooth. I think that like there's stuff that y'all see on TV for sure,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of stuff that like the richer moments typically happen off camera for us.
Absolutely.
The Black community, and this is why I'm glad you asked that, Austin. Like in the Black community, on both sides, like the boyfriend meeting the family and the girlfriend meeting the family, like it's a vetting process, bro. Like, it's a vetting process.
Yeah.
If they have siblings, especially like my little sister, right? She's the youngest out of 5. She has 4 older brothers.
Right.
Her first boyfriend came through. Me and Austin were
What?
push-ups. Like we were like shirtless doing push-ups when he walked in the house. First time we met, dude. You know what I'm saying? So,
No cap.
And sometimes Black moms are just like, my mom is worse than my dad.
Yeah.
And then if the dad is, and then if they have brothers or cousins, you got to deal with uncles. You know, Black people, they got uncles and cousins that aren't uncles and cousins that you got to deal with. So it's just crazy. I'm thinking like, man, this dude really, everybody on the first.
Oh, that's real. And the crazy thing is, so I have 3 younger sisters. I'm the same way. My baby sister actually is a freshman at Elon, right? And so she got a little boyfriend, plays football at Richmond. I met him like virtually, but hadn't met him in person. So I go meet him probably maybe like a couple months ago. And I was ready to come in with this. Just like, hey, I'm big, he ain't bro, this dude's like my size at like 17. And I'm sitting here like, oh, hold up. You see me laughing and smiling on TV. I can't be like intimidating him right now. Yeah. So like I was trying to give him all the things that like I felt that I got on wedding day and I failed miserably. But the women in my life, I'm the only boy. They were intense when they came to Karen, and luckily she passed because I don't know many women that could have passed what they try to put her through.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, man.
Yeah, Karen, from what I've seen, Karen don't play. Like she got some toughness to her. Where is Karen originally from?
Baton Rouge. So she got a little edge to her, man. And I know you like that. Yeah, she's quiet.
She's gonna hold her own.
Quiet, but she's not gonna let you play with her. And I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
It's funny, man, because you called your youngest sister's boyfriend little boyfriend. So that's another thing. Like the Black community, they go from, oh, that's your little friend. That's like, oh, that's her boyfriend to Beyonce and then husband. So you went straight from like little friend to husband, like in the same day.
Crazy.
So
in a couple minutes.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. So yeah, it's just, I'm just thinking about that, and I'm single right now, and I'm like, from November to January married, like I'm just trying to figure out when
I'm gonna tag you on my page, and then everyone that was in my DMs can go straight to you. You got
those problems, man. Look,
you got it all.
I don't need those problems, man. I'm trying to stay focused. I'm trying to stay clocked in, man.
Oh man, my last question about Married at First Sight. You're a sneakerhead, much like us.
Yeah.
Have you? Because I know Karen wasn't really feeling it at first.
Yeah.
Have you gotten rid of some sneakers? What's that situation like?
Yeah, so right now, you can speak that a little bit, but the sneaker issue in our house is growing. I think I call this like a little self-care, a little therapy, you know. So like when life's a little tough, people are difficult in the comments. I'm like, you know what? I deserve these shoes, you know. And so I bought a couple pair, added a couple to the collection, and so she's kind of folded and bought me a shoe collection, shoe rack. And so now I have, and going into our new house, I've already designated a man cave for the sneakers. So she's accepted it, and I think that it's going to be a nice little addition to our family.
See, compromise, man. Y'all already on the right path.
Compromise. She gets to have the rest of the house, and then I'll have my little room with my shoe closet.
I'm taking note. Let them have everything. All you need is one little spot.
All I need.
That's all I need. I got one more question, and this will actually transition into our next topic. But how was it going from, being relatively unknown to like the world to in a couple months, multiple thousands of followers, people all in your business.
Yeah.
You have a publicist now. So what was that process like?
Yeah, he's big time. Yo, hold on. Son, so I gotta mention that, dog. So I DM out, right? Like I'm used to a prompt response. This fool, I'm like, yeah, man, like, would love to have you on the pod. He's like, yeah, no doubt, man. That's dope. But I'm gonna need you to talk to my publicist. And I'm like, when the DJ
Right.
I was like, this dude has a publicist now.
Oh man, chill, dude.
Yeah, man. He's different. He's different.
I'm not, man. I divert people to the publicist so I don't get in trouble, man. They try to take my money, man, and I can't let it happen. I can't let it happen.
No, I'm playing, man. Shout out to your publicist though. She's dope.
What was that like though, man? Like what was
I'm still getting used to it, man. I think that in my mind, like day to day, like our lives look pretty normal, like just trying to figure out what marriage looks like, what quarantine marriage looks like, and then trying to figure out what my job day to day looks like. But then when we go out in public now, it's like, especially in New Orleans, it's a small city. We don't go anywhere where we're not recognized. And so that's different. But then also social media, man, it's a rough place. Karen got a lot of scrutiny this season, and it's tough being able to know who she really is versus what people see on TV and supporting her and defending her. But then also, like myself, I think people generally are pretty positive towards me, but also get a lot of hate for like just being very pro-Black on the show, being pro-Black in general. And so people say some real hateful things, and trying to figure out like the line between when they go low, you go high, and holding people accountable to the messed up stuff they say, And I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to get used to it. But more often than not, it's been really positive and really cool. And I think that ultimately, hopefully, I can use this platform for something bigger. I think being a student athlete really helped with that. Understanding like we have a platform, a certain way you carry yourself, and then also like how do you use what you've been given to be able to help others. And hopefully, I'm able to do that.
Yeah, I'm confident you'll be able to, man. And that's what I wanted to talk about next, because you already actually had a platform to do that before this, right? And I think, in my opinion, it's one of the most important platforms in the world and in this country, and that's teaching and coaching. So I guess my first question would be, what led you to that career path to begin with?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I started at Elon. I was human service studies major. Originally wanted to be education, but as an athlete, you have to do student teaching hours, and we couldn't work that around practice and training and games and stuff. So human service studies seemed the best way to go. Be able to like, how do I help people? And then using education as a way to do that. So basically, it was like social work, right? Graduated from Elon, did a lot of like community service there, and then transitioned to Chicago. Literally, I moved. I stayed for my 5th year. I got hurt my junior year. Came back, and then so I had like a whole basically from May when I graduated to December to kind of like figure out what all I want to do with my life. And I was like, you know what, I want to go to Chicago. No reason, like there was no rhyme or reason behind it whatsoever, other than just I wanted to go to a major city. Didn't have any friends there. Didn't have any. Like, I had an uncle, a godfather actually, who lives there, and I was like, you know what, let's go. And I started teaching second grade at a charter school, and was like, yo, I knew I love kids. I knew I love education, and so I was like, yo, this is the way that I want to go. Realized that there was a lot more happening like outside the classroom than that was happening inside the classroom. Like I'm trying to get kids to learn how to add, and they haven't eaten in 2 days. And I'm like, hold up, if you haven't eaten in 2 days, if you're riding the train back and forth at night, math doesn't matter. Like learning how to write, I mean, it matters, but it doesn't matter as much as meeting your most basic needs. And so I was like, how am I able to be able to help kids get their most basic needs met from a broader perspective? And so I ended up going to grad school, University of Chicago, went into a social service administration program, which is basically social work, but focused in education leadership. And my 2 years there were phenomenal. Was able to get a lot of mentorship through like professors there, but also just people in the community. Was in 2 different high schools there in the city where predominantly Black populations, and learned a lot, grew a lot, and then actually went to homecoming in 2017. Met up with one of my former teammates, Blake Thompson, who was captain, great guy. And we just rapped for a little bit. He was like, hey, we just started a football program here in New Orleans. Me and Akeem Langham, who played corner with me there. So all 3 of us played DB. And he was like, hey, man, we'd love to have you down here. He's like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I really want to be in school leadership. How can I do that? He's like, oh, we'll find a position for you. Literally like a month later, they flew me down, and I was like, yo, this is a great fit. Was administrator there for a year, coached football there, and then got a better opportunity at this current school that I'm at, which is elementary school. So I'm working pre-K through 4th grade at an elementary school here, which is like the most diverse most diverse school in the city. We have a Black CEO, we have a Black principal, Black woman CEO, myself, and then 4 other Black women are on the leadership team there, and doing some really, really cool work, man, and able to help people, kids and families get their needs met. And it's special. And I think it's really cool to be able to be in a leadership role and be able to affect like 800 kids each day. But this year's definitely been a challenge with COVID and trying to figure out how to operate a virtual school, kind of a hybrid school, as well as an in-person school all in one. But I've really been enjoying it and kind of taking it as a challenge this year compared to what previous years have looked like.
That's special, man. That's super special. So I had the opportunity to be a long-term sub at the middle school that myself and my whole family went to. And I gravitated towards, those kids, and I developed strong, personal connections, man. Even to this day, like I still see him walking the street. I'll see him at the park. Mm-hmm. But one thing I noticed, man, and I want you to kind of talk about this, but there's not enough strong Black male teachers, and they don't even have to be Black teachers, but male teachers in general, right? There's not enough male teachers in our school system. The women do a great job, mm-hmm. But they can only do but so much. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about, the importance of having that male figure in the school system?
Yeah, man, that's huge. I think especially for young Black men, being able to have coaches, like we all have Black coaches, but also like people who are actually teaching you something in the classroom is so important. I think if I think about our school, pre-K through 7th grade, we only have maybe like 2 or 3 Black male teachers. Like we might be in other roles, but to be able to like, and sitting in the classroom with you each day and every day, seeing you through tough moments, I think it's limited. And so I think the importance of being able to have role models, have examples in their classroom of people who enjoy reading, who enjoy writing, who make it seem like it's cool, because it is cool to do, I think is a big motivator and encouragement for kids. I think also, which also I haven't really thought about until just now, is like, I work in the most diverse school in the city. So we have probably about like 60% Black kids, maybe 30% white, and then 10% Latinx, Asian, Indian, or indigenous folks, right? And the white kids seeing a young black man who's joyful, who's happy, who can be swaggy, but also can dress it up, who's able to teach you math, but also teach you how to be a good person, is important. And so for them to be able to have their first, when you're 4 years old, your first interaction with a black man, being able to be someone like myself, I got to take great pride in that, and being able to see like, hey, this is what black man's like. And so from now on, that 4-year-old little white girl is gonna, when they see a black man, they're not gonna think of the things that we see in the media that are negative. They're gonna think of Mr. Williams, and that means a lot to me. And I think that the more and more people, the more and more we're able to be proximal to young people, the more that their worlds are going to be shaped, and their worldview is going to be different than what we experienced, what our parents experienced, and people before that.
And you touched on something that was powerful, man. I didn't even think about it until you mentioned it. And it's the effect that black men can have on other races outside of just their race, right? So it's obviously important for black males to be present in the inner city, in areas that are predominantly black, because unfortunately, we're lacking black fatherhood as far as them being there, right? So there needs to be a strong black male in their lives. But the misconception is that black men are good for athletics, entertainment, and crime. That's what we're known for.
Right.
When you boil it down. So
what the media projects.
That's what the media portrays us as. So the fact that you said, if someone who's white or Hispanic or Asian sees me as a well-rounded black man, and that's their first experience, that's powerful, because the reality is, unfortunately, white folks aren't the only people who are racist against black people. Unfortunately, every race is racist against black people. And that's just how it is for whatever reason. So what advice would you give to non-black teachers when it comes to dealing with black children, specifically black children in the inner city? Because you mentioned it, there aren't enough black male teachers. Yeah. So how can we equip them, to be able to relate and understand the challenges that a black student may be going through?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like I could talk about this for hours, but I think the first thing that came to my mind was just check yourself, check your privileges. Think about the experiences you've had with black folks in general, like in your life. Like not just, I have one black friend, my best friend's black, my husband's black, my cousin's black. Like thinking about all the experiences you've had with black people, and then think about how those connections or those relationships may impact how you're treating this black child, and what misconceptions you may have about what this black child experience is like before engaging with them and connecting with them. And I think that one of the things that I've come into in education is there's like two extremes, right? It's people think that work from like a deficit perspective, right? Whereas like black kids are lacking, they're poor, they're coming from a single parent home, they don't have, and so therefore I need to do all that I can to catch them up, right? And so not looking at their strengths. I think another perspective is people are like, okay, well, these black kids are rough and it's tough, and so I'm going to give them a bunch of empathy and kind of pity and feel sorry for them, and so they're kind of like permissive and allow black kids to do whatever they want to do, and think that they're not a part of the problem because black kids are seemingly happy, but they're still not learning or doing anything. And so I think it's important to be able to check yourself, but then also hold black kids at the same, if not higher standard than you would any other kid, and treat them with love and respect like you would any other human, but also realize that their race impacts the way that you look at them, but also the way the world treats them. And you can't deny them of that. And I think that one of the things I was thinking about as you were talking was that like black men being in schools are benefiting not only black kids but other races, and we need to have more black men in school so they can see the myriad of ways that black men present themselves. Right? Every black man is not like me. Every black man is not like you. Austin. Every black man is not like Marshall, and that's perfectly fine. And I think that like people expect someone to be like, as I look at Obama type of black man or whatever, but there's 40 million different ways to be a black man, and I think that needs to be represented and needs to be able to be acknowledged and celebrated for our black kids. I think that we try to put them in pigeonholes and put them in, oh, you should be an athlete, you should do this, you should do that, and allow black kids to explore and be the many different ways that they want to be. I think is really, really important.
Hey guys, thanks for clocking in with us and making it this far into the episode. We want to continue these episodes for as long as possible, but we might need your help. If you click on the description on each episode, you'll find a link that reads support this podcast. If you enjoy keeping up with us, click on that link and you can make a monthly donation. All right, you guys hear enough of me talking anyways, so let's get back into the episode.
Yeah, and it's funny, man, because I know I would get this at Elon sometime. Marshall, I know you did, but like when you're talking to, to some white people and they first hear you talk, and it's like, oh, like, you know how to articulate yourself. Mm-hmm. You're not the black. Basically, they're saying you're not the black people that I'm used to encountering or what I'm seeing on the media, right? Yep. And that's always been a problem. And like you said, there's no one way to be black. And Marshall, I know you can touch on this because I feel like it happened to you recently, right? Where, someone was saying, he's different. He's not what I'm used to seeing.
Yeah. I'll get on that topic. Someone was like, yeah, he's basically, it was a girl I was talking to, and met her friend, and her friend was like, "Oh, he's kind of like a white black person." Right. You know what I'm saying? And I know she didn't mean it, in an offensive way. Mm-hmm. Now, mind you, this person isn't black, so just because she's been around a lot of black people, you're used to ratchet black folk.
Yeah.
And she meant it in a good way, like, oh, I like him because he's not that way. But the term white black is like, that doesn't make any sense. There's not one way to be black. But going back to what you said about, teachers who aren't black, who are pitying black kids and letting them get away with stuff, the reality is black men in particular have zero room for error when it comes to integrity, character, how they present themselves. And unfortunately, we can do all those things right and still be misconstrued.
Very much so.
So, how do you personally find the balance of, all right, I'm going to be empathetic to their situation, but I need to prepare you for life. So how do you find that balance when you're talking to them?
That's a great question. I think with the older kids, when I work in the high schools, I was much more like intense with them because they run out of time. I'm like, hey, look, here's the deal. You're failing English class, and I know that English doesn't matter to you right now, and it might be difficult for you. But if you can't write or you can't read, I'm not worried about college. I'm worried about you being able to like sign a lease. I'm worried about you being able to like do the things that you vote. Like I was talking about this election day. Elon degree, Chicago degree. Thought I was a really good reader. I sat there for like 10 minutes trying to read the law because it seemed so like it was hard to read. And I was like, yo, if my kids don't know how to read, how can they be able to make changes in their own community by a simple click of a button? Like you don't even know what you're reading, right? And so I feel like for older kids, I was really especially like, hey, you don't have a lot of time. You got to figure this out because once you're 18, nobody cares about like your accommodations. Nobody cares about like the supports that you needed in school. Like we got to figure this out. With younger kids, I feel like I'm starting to have that same sense of urgency just because I know that once kids get a certain, and that's another thing for black kids, once they get a certain size, like if you're a black boy or a black girl, you're seen as older and therefore seen as more culpable for your actions, right? So you can be 10 years old, but if you're 5'8", 5'10", nobody cares if you're upset. If you're angry, you're a threat. And so, like, how can you handle your emotions? How can you handle adversity in a way that, like, will one, you're able to advocate for yourself and support yourself, but also be able to like, what's the word I'm looking for? Not be seen as a threat, or be received in a way that allows you to be able to get what you need. And so I think that it's definitely a tough balance. I don't think that I'm perfect at helping doing that for kids, or also for myself at times. But I do think that it's integral that we have more people that are thinking about it and having these conversations in order for us to be able to get what kids ultimately need.
I'm gonna keep it a buck with you, man. You talked about you have trouble reading like the laws on the book. Hey, bro, same here, dog. For some reason, they go back to Old Testament English. they write these laws. You know what I'm saying?
It's intentional.
These thous and shouts. And I'm like, why am I reading this like it's 1776?
Right. We ain't use thou and thine and shall not. I'm like, what is happening? What does that mean?
It's not a reflection of your intelligence, man. I just want you to know that.
One thing you did touch on, Miles, is, the mental health aspect of your kids. Mm-hmm. Is in your school system. Are there ways for them to seek help? Is that something that, it goes through their counselors? Mm-hmm. Are there programs? But what are they, especially now during COVID? Like, is there anything that these kids can lean on when it comes to, tapping into their mental health?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's one of the things I take a lot of pride in our school, is that we have a great counselors that are always willing and open to be able to do whatever they can, whether it's virtually, in person, or just like going to the kid's house and figuring out what they need or their support structures are. But also just around our entire school, one of the things that I'm in charge of is social emotional learning. And so throughout their morning meeting each day, for about 30, 45 minutes each day, they're learning social emotional learning skills, whether it's how do I actively listen? What does assertive voice sound like? What this last week was friendly feline and critical cat, right? And so we all have friendly voices in our minds, but we also have critical voices in our minds. And so we have both of them, and that's okay. But how do we turn the volume down on what that critical voice sounds like, and how can we turn that into something positive, right? And so when they're learning those things at 4 and 5 years old, I don't remember learning that intentionally at 4 or 5, right? But when they're learning those things early, when they're 15, 16 years old, hopefully you know how to be able to like, hey, you know what, my mind doesn't feel as good as it wants to right now. How can I seek help, or how can I advocate for what I need? And hopefully, COVID is a different beast, man. There's a lot of different trauma and things that are occurring for kids, teachers, families, all that. But hopefully through these lessons and knowing that they have networks of support, that they're able to get ultimately what they need.
Yeah, no, that's big time, and that didn't just go for the students, like you said, teachers as well. I have teacher friends that they're going through a rough time, man. But it's just something that, we all kind of have to cope with. But, I have the utmost respect for, teachers, because one, I've seen it, I've been through it, man. These kids, they're a lot. They're a lot, man. They're a lot. But like, it's so rewarding, man. Like, again, I was there. I had a short stint, but like the fact that some of these kids still remember me when I see them walking the streets and, at the park or something, that means a lot, man. So kudos to you and to all the teachers, man, because, you guys are really, the real MVPs.
I appreciate that. I think it's crazy what kids remember too, man. Like, the positive things, the interactions that seem so small to you mean the world to kids, and especially with consistency and like routine, like kids love that. And they love to be able to see someone who like, they feel people that like care about them and love them and want the best for them. But they also feel when you're being fake, especially like young black kids know when you're faking it. And so maybe my other words for white teachers is don't be fake. Be as real as you possibly can. Mm-hmm. Kids know. And if they know that you're I don't know, can I curse in this podcast? I don't know if I can curse.
It's PG-13, yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm not gonna curse. Look, the kids know when you're bull crapping them. They know when you're not being authentic, and they can feel that, and that's not gonna help either you or them.
Man, I got a 1-year-old, and he know when I'm not.
He knows.
Like, these kids are smart, man. They really are.
They are. And the thing is, like, if the higher you raise the bar, they're gonna meet it because they want to. They want to be able to please you. They want to be. They don't know not to do that. And so you raise that bar high and expect them and tell them and encourage them to meet those expectations. Kids will do it. They'll do it.
So what's the relationship with the parents like, right? Because I feel like when you're in the school system, you got to fight 3 battles. No, really 3 battles. You got to fight the battle with the kids, the parents, and then your own administration, right? So I want to touch on the other 2. And you don't got to snitch on anybody.
Yeah.
But with the parents, like, how do you approach dealing with the parents? Because I know it's not easy, right?
Yeah.
So I want to get your perspective on that.
Yeah. I think our parent population is a different one in that we have some really wealthy parents, wealthy white parents, and then some parents who are living in poverty, right? And we have everything in between. And so the entitlement and the privilege that these wealthier families have is upsetting, honestly. It's frustrating to deal with. I think, but the way that I approach all parents is, one, I know I'm not a parent yet, so I can't speak from their experience. I know, especially in COVID, how difficult I can't imagine how difficult it's been for parents to have to all of a sudden pivot their lives and then be able to educate their kids or make sure their kids are learning each day in and day out. So try to give that much grace and empathy to parents in that regard. I think another thing that I've been struggling with as an administrator is trust that I know how to do my job. I'm a professional. I know what I'm doing. I've done a lot of training. I've had a lot of experience. And so I think that when parents are able to be in classrooms now virtually, they see things that they weren't able to see before. And they're like making critiques. And I'm like, oh, hold up. I don't come to your job and tell you what to do. So you got to make sure that you respect me, what I'm doing in my job. And so, I mean, I think we're all going through a stressful time right now. I think the parents are really stretched thin, just like everybody else is. And so try to extend as much grace as possible, but also realizing that we have a job to do is to teach kids. And right now, really my main focus is how do we teach kids to be good people? Because at the end of the day, like, learning loss is going to take place. Like, kids have not really been learning the way that they normally learn since March. And so how are we not losing out on good people, even though we are missing out on some content right now? And I think a lot of that has been me trying to figure out with parents, what are the best thing for your kids right now, whether that's being in the building, whether that's being remote, and how can we kind of differentiate your kids' learning to make sure that they're getting the most that they can right now.
Right. Good stuff. Have there been parents that have been like, man, I really appreciate you all now that I see what you deal with, I really understand, how tough it is to do your job. And, I have a greater respect for you now. Has there been an opposite reaction?
Yeah. At the beginning of the pandemic, people were like, oh, well, I need to get my kids get back to school. I appreciate what teachers do. But I think once kids got back in the building, it's kind of like lost sight of the fact that, like, we're struggling, right? We're still struggling. Like, it's not any different. Like, I think it's like 75% of my kids are in school right now, and 25% are at home. So the 25% that are home, they still have to learn while we're still operating the school like in person. And so I think that people expect to have the same quality of education virtually as you had in person, and it's hard to do. It's hard to replicate that when we have the personnel that we have. And I think parents have been appreciative overall. I think there's definitely been some parents who have not been, and it's a part of it. I think I grow back to being a student athlete so much, man. Like, there's so much, you got to be able to take feedback and criticism on the spot. On the spot, you got to be able to take it on the chin and realize, okay, cool, this is what it is. What can I do to go forward and make it better? Because I don't have time to be like sulking about whatever someone's saying to me right now. And I think that's kind of how I approach going to work every day.
Austin, I didn't know if you had any other things you wanted to touch on with the teaching. I did have one question before we go to some of the coaching experience that he's going through, but I wanted to give you the opportunity to ask.
No, I think he uncovered a lot, man. As I said before, like, continue to keep teachers, students, keep them in your prayers, man, because this isn't easy, But, again, man, we commend you for all that you do, because, I'm a parent now. So, like, as he gets older and, gets to the point where he's going to be in the school system, like I'm going to be, I don't want to be that parent, I don't think I will be, but I mean, it's going to be tough, man. Especially because I've seen, what it's like when it comes to how they treat, minority children. Right. So like, I worry about that sometimes, but who knows, man, maybe I send him to Uncle Miles, man.
I was just joking about that yesterday. I was like, someone was trying to give us some food, like some treats and stuff, and they just had a baby, and I was like, I don't have anything to give you in return, but you can send them to Uncle Miles, and we might be able to learn something, in a couple of years, Yeah. But like speaking to your point about parenting, like kids are your most prized possessions, and so like you're gonna do whatever you can to make sure you get the best for your kid, that's across race, that's across gender, that's across socioeconomic status. Yeah. And I think as an administrator, you have to be able to keep that in mind too, right? Like if I had a kid, I would be doing everything I could to make sure I got the best for my kid too. And I think that's something I have to keep in mind as well when parents are talking to me out the box. It's like, hey, like they're trying to do the best for their kid right now. And what can I do to make sure that they feel that they're being heard and supported?
Absolutely.
My last question with the teaching, man, is are there any teachers that personally impacted you that you would want to shout out?
Man, dang, that's a long list, man. First and foremost, I would say my mom. My mom was my 7th and 8th grade social studies teacher.
Wow.
But she taught me so much, like to this day, like still teaches me a lot. So I definitely shout out my mom. I think about Miss Caston, my English teacher, who told me that I was a good writer, and I realized that like. When she told me that, I was like, "Oh, I like to write now. Like I believe that I can write, and that developed my habit or enjoyment of reading. And then I think about in college, Professor Reed. She was a Black woman, my first Black teacher outside of my mom. First Black teacher outside of my mom. Dang, that's crazy. I was like a sophomore in college.
Crazy.
Yeah. So she was dope. And then. In grad school and college, I had so many other teachers that were big impacts on my life and poured into me. And I'm grateful to be able to do the same thing for kids now. Got
to make sure you send this episode to your teachers, man, so they hear the shout out.
For sure.
We'll send you the clip. Make it easy for you.
There we go. Send it. We're gonna send it to my publicist, and we'll figure it out.
We'll get it to him. I'll send it to him. I'm not there yet to communicate directly. We got to blow the pot up, and then maybe I can talk to you directly. But that's a powerful message because what you explained is someone planted a seed in you, and now you're like, oh, I actually want to be good at this. Like I like this now. So teachers have power of life and death, man.
For sure.
It seems like you are paying it forward, and doing the same thing that was done to you. Yeah, speaking of that, you coach as well, right? Which you got to deal with parents and other things as well. So how's the transition been going from a student athlete playing at a high level to coaching? Not everyone that can play can coach. It's not for everybody. So we'd love to hear that.
Yeah, you made such a great point. Like, not everybody can coach, and I would be lying to you if I said that my first year I was a good coach. I was like, hey, do this. Like, you can't do this. Like, watch me do this. Do the same thing. Do the same thing I just did. And I'm talking to kids who've never played football before,
right?
Don't know the rules of the game. Don't even play Madden. And I'm like, yo, do this. And so I learned a lot, man, about like how do you coach, and big shout out to Blake and Akeem, man. They're like, one day hopefully y'all can get them on the podcast because they are like,
no, I would love to.
Brilliant dudes, man, but also just like the way that they attack everything that they do in their life, man, is like a roadmap for how anybody I feel like should, man. And I think they're always figuring out ways to get better, always figuring out ways to be able to like more clearly and concisely communicate things, especially to kids, but to anybody. And being a coach, I learned a lot from them, or have learned a lot from them about just like, if you want to teach somebody how to do something, one, you have to be able to like break it down in a way that they cannot get it wrong. And if they do get it wrong, it's you take responsibility for not teaching it clearly enough so that they can ultimately get where they want. And so we've been 3 years in this game now. This season's was very difficult because of COVID. The season they were trying to decide whether we would have a season or not. We already had low numbers. We had about 35 kids, and on the football team, that's not a big number. And that dwindled down to like maybe 11 or 12 kids because of transportation issues. And so we had a tough decision to make where we were like, if we want our seniors to be able to go play in college somewhere or be able to have a football season, we might have to let them transfer and go other places. So we kind of got to a place where we had to allow them to be able to make the best decision for themselves and their families make the best decision for themselves. And a lot of kids ended up transferring and going to other places. A couple of them that stayed were like underclassmen. And we decided to like work them out, train them every week like we do where we normally would practice, but we didn't get to play this season. And that was tough. It was tough for all of us.
Yeah, I think, football, man, more than probably any sport, man, it's like one of the ultimate team sports to me.
Yeah.
When you just think about how everything has to come into play, it all has to work together. Mm-hmm. I feel like sports is really the best teacher when it comes to life, man. That's just my personal opinion.
No doubt about it.
Especially being a student athlete, obviously you too as well. Can you talk about how important, sport is to you, but also the outlet to teach not only the game of football, but life in general?
Yeah. Maybe one day we can like collab and write a book on it or something, man. Cause I think it really is like, it's everything that, obviously everything that I am is because of God, because of my family. But sports taught me everything, like from being able to interact with people across difference, but people who were similar to me. I think all of my male friends, like including yourself, I've met that play sports, and we have a certain level of respect and just understanding of just like, hey, this guy has put a lot of work in to hone his craft. And that goes across anywhere. If I meet anyone in the country that was a student athlete, there's a certain level of respect that I have for you because of that. But I think that like you learn how to overcome adversity. You learn how to accept like feedback, positive and negative. Like you can't get too high, can't get too low. You learn how to communicate with people in a way that I don't think a lot of people are able to experience. And I've realized in the real world that as a leader in a school, but also just as a person, the way that we're able to kind of navigate the world is just different because of our experience as student athletes. That's something I wouldn't trade for the world. I think that every kid should be able to be in some type of organized something, whether it's dance or sports. I can't think of another like extracurricular activity, but like to be able to use your mind differently, man. Mm-hmm. I think about like breaking down film. You're sitting there critiquing and paying attention to detail. And that same thing is the same thing I'm doing when I'm looking at an Excel spreadsheet, trying to like analyze data about kids so I can make sure that they're getting better tomorrow, So I think those skills are so transferable, and being able to have those experiences at a high level has only paid dividends to me being able to do what I'm doing now.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. I wanted to ask, since football has kind of had to take a back seat because of COVID, mm-hmm. has it opened up an opportunity for you to pour more life stuff into these players? Yeah,
that's a great question. So yeah, a lot of that has been the focus. I remember one day we were in the weight room and it was probably towards like report card time, and I was like, "Yo, how are your grades right now?" And the kid like kind of looked over his shoulder, and I was like, "Yo, how are your grades right now?" And the kid was like, "I don't know, I got a 1 point whatever." And Blake stopped practice. We were literally in the middle of like stretching. And he was like, "Go to the classroom. We're about to pull all your GPAs up." And I think except for like two kids, everyone was like 1.0 and below. And we're like, hold up. So you're coming to, first off, all your work is virtual right now. You're coming to school to practice and your grades are less than a 1.0? No. So we are not practicing this week. You're figuring out what you need. Email your teacher. Like we had them script out your email to your teacher. Email your teacher right now. This is what you're going to do. And it's like, if you're not doing things you do in the classroom, you don't need to be out here practicing, especially if we're not having a season. Like you should be winning there. And I think that being able for stopping in that moment was helpful for our kids. And like, hey, these people don't like care about us and our well-being. And they realize football means nothing if you can't do what you're supposed to do in the classroom. And so I think that it's been helpful for kids to be able to see like we have black men in our lives that realize that education is important for a myriad of reasons. And sports take second. And yeah, obviously they're on our butt on the football field, but they're just as hard as on the classroom. And I think that them seeing that is ultimate. I mean, I don't know if they haven't said anything like, oh, thanks so much, Coach Mr. Williams or whatever. But I think they realize like, hey, this guy cares about me because he's willing to sacrifice the thing that I love or the things that he loves in order for me to be able to be successful.
Right. Yeah. I do have a question. And sorry, I said I didn't.
No, I was just going to add, man, like playing a sport is a privilege. Yeah. Like we've all had, and I know you have, Miles, but we've all had like season-ending injuries, right? Imagine how that felt, when the game was taken away from us.
Yeah.
And, going back to what you're saying about your kids and the GPA, like if you can't take care of this stuff, off the field, I mean, you're not going to play, man. Not everyone can do what you guys are doing. Not everybody has the same opportunities. Life is built off opportunities.
Yep.
So you can't take that stuff lightly. And I try to tell kids that I kind of mentor and train as well, man. Like it can be taken away from you
so quick.
Like that.
So quick. And then for everybody, our career ends, man. Like everybody ends at some point. Yeah. LeBron's career is going to end at some point. Tom Brady's career is going to end at some point. And then who are they, right? And yeah, they made a lot of money, but like, what's their purpose after that? And the thing I love about LeBron is he's able to show like in a lot of different avenues, like what his purpose is. So whenever he's done, he could stop playing today and he still has so many great things going for him. Right. And I think that we got to make sure the kids understand that early on. Is like, okay, cool. I want you to be the best athlete you can possibly be. I want you to be the best person you could possibly be. But in the day, your career is going to end, whether you know it's going to end or not. And how are you going to be prepared for that?
Yeah. Bron's a GOAT, man. Right, Marshall?
No, he's not the GOAT.
Hey, look. Kobe's my favorite player of all time, always will be. But you cannot deny that Bron's a GOAT.
I'm not a LeBron hater, man. I'm a realist.
See, I'm a realist. What does that mean?
We got like 21 minutes left. I don't want your publicist hitting me up saying we went over time, so I don't want to. I'm a Kobe guy, but now what I was gonna say, man, is one of the things that I'm passionate about, and down the road, I think I want to, do a nonprofit, open up a nonprofit, and honestly, I'd love to get your thoughts on it, and maybe we can collab on it. But helping student athletes, whether it's in high school, college, or even pro athletes, transition into what is that next thing for them, right? I feel like I've seen it with so many people, man, where they either play too long because they're stalling because they don't know what they're going to do after, or that sport ends. Because here's the thing about sports, man. There's only one way, and even you can argue this is even tough, but there's only one way to go out on top, and that's winning a championship. But even that, it's like you're on the high, and then it may be even worse in some cases because you're on this high, and then you're just right back down, right? So I'm really passionate about like having a platform to help student athletes, pro athletes, or whoever transition into things after school. So in your experience, like what helps you and what advice would you give to people who are trying to figure out what they're going to do after school or after they finish that sport? Because in my opinion, that starts way before that thing ends. You can't start planning that once you end it. So what advice would you give and how did you handle that?
That's a great question, man. I think, and we definitely talk offline about that because I have some similar issues and similar passions, and then some friends who were doing some similar things that I think we could collab on because that'd be dope. Honestly, I'm a big person about like chasing your passion. Like figure out what you're passionate about. You might not have a plan, but if you know what, like, personally for me, I knew that I love working with kids. I always wanted to help people. Didn't know what that was going to look like. Still don't fully know what that's going to look like big picture, but I know that that's what I want to do. And so since I've chased that passion, avenues have opened up and has allowed me to figure out like, cool, I like doing this. This is what I'm good at. And then how can I continue to make this a bigger thing to help impact more people? And I think that we got to figure out ways to be able to help kids early figure out what their purpose is, what they're passionate about, what their interests are, what their strengths are, so that they can accentuate those things and then be able to at least express what those are. So people, when opportunities come, they can hop on them. Like with for example, with Blake, I was like, look, I want to work with kids. I'm good at this, and this. I'm passionate about this. How can we make this work? And he's like, cool. I'm going to let my principal know. Give your resume, whatever. I didn't know I wanted to be a school administrator for certain, but I knew that this is what I'm good at and so I'm passionate about. And I think the more athletes that are able to know, like, hey, I'm able to break. I pay good attention to detail because I've broken down film. I have a strong work ethic because I wake up at 5 a.m. every day and go to workouts. I've been doing that for 4 years consistently, or whatever that case may be. When they're able to realize what their strengths are and be able to communicate them and what they're passionate about, I think that the rest takes care of itself.
That's big, man. That's big. And you know what? It's funny because I feel like I'll stick to basketball and football because that's what I know most about. Yeah. I feel like that may be a tough conversation to have with some kids because they think they're going to the league.
Yeah.
If you play Division 3, 2, 1, JUCO, and basketball, football, you think you're playing pro. I don't care who you are. Like in your mind, I'm going pro.
Yeah.
So coming to a kid and say, hey, man, you may want to start thinking about, if this doesn't work out, how you should plan your life. So how do you have that conversation without killing their dream that they can get to that next level? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, you got to have that conversation early on. Like I knew coming out of high school, I wanted to go to the league. That was like my number one plan. But I knew that anything could happen, and it did happen, that I wasn't going to be able to go to the league. I wasn't going to play football no more. My hips are gone. I have 2 terrible hips at 27. And because of that, I can't play no football for nobody no more. Right. And so because my body is not allowing me to do that, even if that was at 37, now what am I going to do? Right. I have so much more of my life to live. And so I think it's hard when you're 17, 18 years old to be able to think big picture. But when you have somebody, even if it's an upperclassman, because that might be like the best way to be able to kind of get to people is like, hey, I'm a senior. I realize my career is ending. How can I talk to this freshman real quick and let them know, hey, prepare yourself for hey, look, I want you to go to the league. And you do whatever you can to be able to get there. But also know it might end. And if it does, what are you going to do? I think it's tough, man, because depending on where you're coming from, you might be the first person in your family to go to college. You might be the first person who's able to play college ball. And so people are depending on you and you've been praised as this athlete, but you got to realize that also you're starting your career too. And you got to think about what that's going to look like.
Right.
Yeah. Just to add on that, going back to LeBron, but that's why I love his more than an athlete, campaign. Mm-hmm. Right. I think one way to do that, man, is, as you said, at a young age, let these kids know, there's a lot more that you can do besides sports. Think about what you're passionate about. Think about things that you're good at, and let them be expressive in those things.
Yeah,
I think that's one way to, to get to that point where it's like, okay, yeah, my dreams and aspirations is to play pro ball, right? That's great, but I can play the piano. Mm-hmm. I'm a good writer, right? Because I know a lot of people. I work in sports, right? So a lot of people that work in sports, they wanted to play professional sports
for sure.
But they knew, okay, I may not get to that level yet, but I've always been, good at being in relationships and having good relationship with players. Maybe I'm becoming an agent, mm-hmm. Like our boy Jordan.
Yeah.
So just at a young age, man, letting these kids know, it's okay to have interest in other things and mm-hmm. what's perceived to be cool.
Yeah. And I think too, I think kids need to know what those options are.
Yeah, exactly.
I had no clue what a lot of jobs that are out here. I still don't know. Once we kind of cross over to this influencer life, whatever it's called, I was like, people get paid for that. Mm-hmm. People get paid to do this.
Crazy, right? Yeah.
And so there's so many things that we realize, and I think there's so many strengths student athletes have. I think about I'm a competitive dude, bro. I don't care what it is. I don't care who it is. If I'm playing 5-year-olds at recess, I'm gonna win, Right. Like, you're gonna find like you might not like it. I'm gonna win. Like, I might let you score one, but I'm gonna win, right? But then how I turn that into like my day to day, and it's like I'm gonna be the best teacher, I'm the best educator I can be. I'm gonna be the best husband I can be. I'm gonna be, and every single day I'm getting better at whatever my craft is because I want to be the best. And I think that athletes, like, we're sometimes in the real world, we're kind of taught that like, oh no, everybody should be like equal and we're all fair. But like, use that drive, use that motivation to be able to whatever you're passionate about, because it's ultimately going to make not only you better, but everyone else around you.
Man, I'll tell you what, you literally just described
Clock in
lifestyle. Like that's what clock in lifestyle embodies. Like when we thought of this term, it was exactly what you just described, man. And I was just going to say, it's clear that number one, you're in the right field for you. You're in your purpose, and you're clocking in.
Yeah.
You know, and that's to be honest, the Married at First Sight was for the ladies. We have some lady listeners.
No, for real.
That, it's the spiciness and all that.
Yeah.
We didn't invite you on here for that. It wasn't because, oh, you're an influencer. It's Austin told me a lot about you. He said, look, he's clocking in, man, with his teaching. He's involved in the Black community. And I never doubted that. Obviously, I trust my brother, but just hearing the way you speak, man, and hearing how excited you get talking about these things, it's clear that you found your passion and you're excelling in it, man. So
I appreciate that.
It's awesome, man, to hear that, man. And just want to let you know, like you literally described. You may need to, talk about you being a clocking ambassador or something.
Hey,
man.
Let me know.
Hey, we might need a third.
Yeah. You may let me know, man. But Austin, I don't know if you had anything else to touch on. I did want to get into the hop on the call stuff. We have about 10 minutes. That's something else that you're clocked into, right? So we'd love you to kind of talk about the vision behind that and how that all came together.
Yeah. So I was approached by the founder of Hop on the Call, which is basically a platform that allows fans or people who follow the show or follow the Instagram to be able to just get some of my time and be able to kind of just chop it up, whether it's about the show, whether it's about mental health, whether it's about whatever they really want to talk about, to be able to have access to me. And like I don't see myself as a celebrity. I don't think that I'll ever consider myself a celebrity.
Always felt that you were a celebrity from day one. So
I'm not Austin Hamilton, but I think that when you have a platform and people are willing to like pay for your time, I realized, okay, cool. Like I could take a couple bucks, but at the end of the day, like, I want to make sure that this platform is used for other people. And so each month, I pledge to be able to give the proceeds from the time that we're able to connect to a cause. And so this month, the month of December, is to support a family here in the New Orleans area. It's three kids under the age of 7, and a baby on the way. It's due any day now. A single mom, and I'm like, with COVID, she's not working. You got 3 kids who are just joyful kids, but just aren't gonna be able to get what they need or want for Christmas. How can I make sure I'm giving back? And so one of the ways that I'm trying to do that is through Hop on the Call. People are able to sign up, take 10 minutes of my time, 20 minutes of my time, and be able to just rap. And I've really enjoyed it so far. I've been doing it for about 2 months now. And people who've connected with me have just been real dope people. Like I thought I was concerned at first about people asking a lot of questions about the show and stuff like that, but it's really been a lot about like mental health, what things that I'm doing day to day to kind of get better, the Black community, education, what you name it. And I really enjoyed it. I love connecting with people in general. And so being able to do that, have a platform to do that for folks, but also be able to give back is pretty dope. And I've enjoyed it a lot.
That's awesome, man. My last question, Marshall, I don't know how many more questions you have, but and this probably was going to be how we wrapped it up, but I felt it was the appropriate segue. Going into 2021, man, this 2020 wasn't a great year.
Yeah.
But I know for us, man, we kind of used 2020 to really just kind of kickstart a lot of good, you know, us starting this podcast, some stuff with our family. So, you know, we've kind of looked at it on the other side of it and said, you know, this has been, and Marshall, you said this, probably the most important year just for our family, right?
That's by far the best year for us.
Yeah, yeah. Can you talk about, you know, kind of what your goals heading into 2021 is, and how people can kind of turn the page from 2020?
Yeah. Oh man, that's a great question. I think that for me, 2020 was a great year, a blessing. You know, started a family. Unexpectedly started a family.
Shout out to Woody.
Shout out to Woody. And kind of got a bigger platform to be able to do the work that I was already doing and work that I wanted to do going forward. And so really looking in 2021, want to figure out how I can like really capitalize and like expand the work that I've already been really passionate about. And then use this platform for good, not only for the Williams family, but for everybody, especially in the Black community, and student athletes. I think that that's something that I haven't really gotten a chance to talk about much publicly, but that identity is a part of me that's never going anywhere. And I think that when we talk about like our careers ending, like our identity as student athletes kind of like get on the back burner when we think about life and family and stuff. But now I really want to think about how can we as student athletes be able to better support one another, but also be able to like use the strengths and goals that we have to better ourselves and better other people. But thinking about 2020, man, for a lot of people, it was a very difficult year financially, emotionally, mentally. And so I want people to be able to hear and know that they're seen in that, and that 2021 probably won't start much better given the pandemic. But there's a lot of things that you can be doing in terms of like if it's yourself individually, how can you better take care of yourself? What do you need? But then ultimately, how can we also help other people? And I think that going to 2021, my goal is to kind of help people figure that out for themselves. And hopefully, if I come in contact with one person and help make their lives a little bit better, then I've done my job. But hopefully, through Clock In, through our platforms, we're able to touch a lot more people.
Awesome, man. Last question. You've heard me talk about this, man, but I've been having some beard struggles. You know, I made a pledge to myself.
Oh, Marshall got it connected though.
Yeah, Marshall.
I got a little, you know, I'm out here looking like a baseball diamond right now. So I needed to I'm not looking like you, man. So this is helping me too.
Yeah. I told myself, I was like, you know what, 2020, man, it's the year of connection. But, you know, as y'all can see,
not
like much.
So
any tips?
I don't know if anybody that's watching knows this, but Austin's nickname in college was Sexy Chocolate. And so when you're chocolate and you got dimples and a smile, bro, you don't need a beard. See, I need this. Like you never see me without one. I can't do it without it, you know? And so I don't have no dimples. Okay. According to my wife, I got dimples. Regardless, you know, I needed this. And so, you know, I can't give all of my secrets and my tips away. But maybe I'll write it down in my next edition of the book, and you can.
Okay. You didn't have to bring out that nickname, dog. I'm gonna get killed for that.
Thing is, you didn't even deny it. He didn't even deny it.
Someone else told me that. I forgot who.
Oh man,
jeez.
Good old days, man.
That's all I got, man. That's all I got. It's been a pleasure, man. It's really been. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person someday.
Yeah, no doubt.
For sure, man. When the pandemic goes away, man, I'd love to be able to connect with you guys in person, man. I think that what y'all are doing is dope. And it's something that if I had a little bit more time, would have made sure that I was a part of from the beginning. But would love to be able to come back or be able to collaborate with y'all going forward, man, because y'all doing
absolutely, man.
Got to.
Miles, real quick, you guys send me your shirt size, and Karen too. Okay. Send shirt size. We'll definitely hook y'all up. But yeah, man, this was awesome, man. It's been too long. You know, we got to talk more for real.
Yeah, man, hit me up. Hit me up directly. Don't even worry. Publicly. Forget her. Hit me directly. You got my number. Text me. DM me whatever you need to do.
Yes, sir, man. Yes, sir. Well, yeah, man. 2022 episode. Miles Williams, man, he's a special person. We appreciate you clocking in as always, and we'll see y'all next time.
All right, appreciate you, man. Take care, fellas.
Appreciate you, bro.
Appreciate you, dog. Be good.
We put in work, and here's the proof. What you want?
I'm making moves, punching in.
I'm on it too.
I'm in the gym.
I'm in the stew.
It's hunting season.
Where's the food?
We push each other daily, level up.
Cause that's what brothers do.
Clock in.